Today, we're going to talk about the 3 levels of success. Everyone talks about getting to a goal, but they don't really break it down into steps of success. Meaning, when you start something and you just kind of suck, and then you have to get better and better. Sometimes people call it incompetence, incompetence, and then competence. I've heard it described that way. But I'm going to break it into 3 levels of success and how you can use that to propel yourself forward. Because if we know what we're dealing with, if we know that the good stuff comes later, then it makes it easier to get through the sucky stuff or the beginning stages. I think too many people are often trying to be the best that they could be right out the gate. They think that when they look at someone they admire, someone that's successful, maybe in the field that they are starting in, they want to be exactly like that right away, and they're often paralyzed by that. They don't move forward because they're not good enough yet. But how can you get good enough if you don't start? So many people are stuck in the not starting phase or the research phase, right? You've probably heard of it, or you might even be one. You're gonna do it once you know more. Once I research it more, I'm gonna do this thing. And it just really doesn't work that way. So we're gonna talk about the 3 stages of success today, and we will hopefully give you a roadmap to making that happen for you. So step number 1, or wave number 1 of success, is the part where you're just starting. You don't even know what you're really doing. But I like to describe it as the incompetent part, where you're like just flailing about and you just have to really suck until you get better. So this is where, if you're in my industry, in my business, I'm in finance, this is where you're studying for your license. This is where you are getting that foundation piece out of the way so that you can legally make money. Maybe if it's a marketing company, you're learning the basics, the building blocks of how do you make an online ad? How do you approach someone? Those kinds of fundamental building blocks of your business that you have to learn to be able to do the next steps. This is where you're learning, you're listening the most. This is where you're setting goals for your business, where you're learning how to manage your time. One of the things that people often say to me is, how do I get successful? Or what is the biggest thing that you see people fail at? And the biggest thing I see people fail at in business actually is the ability to manage themselves. Because so often, we grow up in school and we're told when to be somewhere. We're told when to do something. Our parents are dictating our lives. The school is dictating our lives. And we want to be an adult. And then we get a job and the job is dictating, right? When you have to be there, when you can leave, when you can eat, when you can go on vacation. And so when people are moving into something where they're starting a side hustle or they're going into business totally for themselves, the biggest place I see people fail is the ability to manage their own time. They just don't do the work because, they're busy. Their kid needs something. They need to make supper. They need to clean the bathroom. There's always going to be something. So you have to set your business hours and you have to stick to them, or you will never get any work done. And you just can't be successful if you don't actually get the working part done. So this is where you're setting those goals. This is where you're setting a routine with yourself. You might have to play around it a bit. I'm still playing with my routine, right? So every Sunday, I am looking at the week ahead and I'm trying to figure out what's happening. So how I do it is I plug out all of my pre-meeting times, like the recurring team things that I have set happening. I block out all of that. I block out all of my kids' activities, the times when I'm going to make supper. I block all that out. And then I allow myself to fill in the rest of the week with appointments or revenue generating activities. So do that with yourself and play with it. You might find that you like to be like me. I like to have a really heavy Monday, Tuesday. And then near the end of the week, I like to do follow-ups and back ending. I like to do my deep work, like my paperwork, all in one day. Those days I may not even get dressed because I just want to get into it. And I feel like I'm more productive actually when I'm like in my sweats and my t-shirt and I just like do all the administrative stuff. You're going to have to find your groove. So feel free to play around with it, but also make sure that you're actually setting a schedule and sticking with it so that you can figure out the way that works for you. So this is where you're also learning how to present. You're learning how to close. You're learning the words of whatever business it is that you're in. You're learning how to actually do those mechanical parts of your business. And this is where coachability is so, so important. So many people are not coachable. They ask their mentor or they ask people in their company or business that have done before what they are trying to do, and they ask them for advice and they don't listen. I don't know. I don't get it. So just to spend for a moment everything that you've done up into this point in your life, no matter how successful you've been, just allow yourself to be coachable. Almost just do whatever they tell you to do and then see if it works, because this is something where you need to develop the ability to receive feedback. You need to develop the ability to be coached. And that often feels uncomfortable. It often feels like someone is criticizing you when really they're trying to coach you. They're trying to get you better. And so you really have to suspend that part of yourself where you feel like you're being criticized, because you're not. As long as you're asking people that have proven success to weigh in on what you're doing, then listen to them. Again, also, that also means on the flip side, don't listen to the people that don't have proven success. Oftentimes when people are starting a business, they listen to their friends and family who have never, ever started a business in their life. They also feel like they should give you advice, and sometimes you allow that to stop you from doing what you're doing. So don't do that, but do reach out to mentors. Intentionally foster relationships with people that have gone before and listen to their advice. Be coachable. This is where you're starting to make income. So you might be transitioning from another income. You might have said, hey, I'm burning the ships and I'm going to just do this full time right away. Whatever that looks like for you, this is where you're starting to generate revenue. And this is the most uncomfortable. This is the most scary part that you're going to be. This is the part that is the toughest, because everything is just new. You're learning so much. You're putting yourself in position. You're putting yourself in a place of rejection so often. And this is where your mental toughness hasn't been built yet, but you really need mental toughness. So check in with yourself often. Just because you're feeling uncomfortable does not mean that you're not on the right path. It just means that you're stretching and growing. So keep going. Questioning what you're doing is normal. Questioning what you're doing is healthy. What isn't healthy is when it starts to become a paralysis of questioning, when you're starting to not take action because of that questioning. But keeping yourself accountable and checking in with yourself, is what I'm doing working? That is healthy. Keep plugged into training, keep plugged into mentorship, keep watching things that help you develop that skill set better. And this is where you need to focus. You need full on commitment until successful. That is what I say focus is. I got that from one of my mentors, so I didn't make that up. I'm not going to take credit for it, but focus stands for full on commitment until success. Many of us have seen that cartoon where they're digging for gold and they stop 2 feet from the gold. That's actually based on a true story of a gentleman that was a gold miner in the gold rush. He literally was 3 feet from the gold and he gave up, sold his stuff. And someone else went on to take all the glory and find the gold and make all the money on it. So quite often, most business people quit too fast. And this is where you really need to find ways to celebrate along the way. You need to give yourself that positive feedback. You need to have that ability to celebrate the small wins, because on the path to success in entrepreneurship or any goal that you have, it can be quite long. This can be described as a marathon, not a sprint. So find little ways that you can celebrate small successes along the way so you can fill up that emotional battery and you can keep going. Wave number 2 is when you're in the mastering and building phase. This is a place where maybe you're going from self-employed to a true business owner on the cash flow quadrant, right? This is where you're starting to maybe duplicate yourself, implement systems and procedures so that other people can start to do the work in the business. You might hear the saying, well, you should be working on your business, not in your business. This is the phase when you are able to start doing that. You've learned the building blocks, you know how to do the tasks, but now you can start to implement systems and procedures, assistance or help, so that you can delegate some of those things and be in the ROI phase of that mental place that entrepreneurs need to live, where you are innovating, where you're growing, and where you're working on the business, not in the business. This is where you need, in my business, you need to focus on your team, right? In your business, depending what it is, you're starting to hire employees and you're starting to focus on pouring into them and helping them master the basics. Make sure that they're getting the building blocks so that you can continue to duplicate and grow. You need to be a leader, not a manager. Many business owners, when they're going from self-employed to business owner, become a manager. It might be the plumber that started out by himself. He hires some people, but he still believes that he has to do everything himself. He can never take a day off because he hasn't built a system that allows him to do that, because he has to do it all. He's behind everything. If you've ever worked for someone like this, it's super frustrating because you can't do your job. It's always like, oh, we have to ask Joe. Oh, Joe has the paperwork, waiting for Joe to call that client back. Joe doesn't realize he is strangling the progress of his business. This is the part where you've got to, as a business owner, start to step back. Make sure you do not fall into management mode. Make sure you stay in entrepreneur mode. Entrepreneurs leverage systems to allow them to grow their business in a way that if they died tomorrow, the business can continue. That's the goal. The goal is not to build something that you own and control to the point of needing to be validated in that role that you can't let anybody else do anything. That is buying yourself a nightmare, truly a nightmare. I've seen it happen time and time again. These guys get to 60 years old, they're totally burnt out, they have no transition plan, and they can't leave the business because they've never implemented systems and procedures. And no one's going to buy a business like that. That's not a business, that's a job. So as you go into your entrepreneurial journey, be very, very strategic and aware of this point. It's often difficult because you might not have the cash flow to pay people to do this stuff from the beginning, but always be thinking, how can I build this into a system that can operate without me? This is so key. And this is the part of your success journey where you are going to be having to create these things and be checking in with yourself. Every time I see a problem in my business, in any of the businesses that I've been a part of, if someone, an employee, is complaining to me about a problem, or they're bringing something to me like, oh, this customer had this bad thing happen, help me fix it, I always want to ask the steps that led to that problem, because within those steps is where you're going to find a failure in your system, or someone wasn't following the system that you put in place. That's what you need to pinpoint, because it's not actually about solving that one client, that one customer's problem. You want to do that, obviously, but you want to find out where in the machine did it fail. Was it people not using the system? Was it the system failing? You need to fix that, or else you're going to repeatedly have the same thing come up. And it's no fun to just be a firefighter in your business. You don't want to just be constantly putting out all these fires, all these emergencies. No one can enjoy their life that way. That is not a fun place to work. That's not a fun place to lead. So always go back to the system and figure out how to fix that. This is where you're EPRing your people. You're acknowledging them, you're praising them, you are recognizing the activities that you want to see. We do this with children. This is a positive parenting technique that I think has been really popular lately. At least it's something that I definitely do with my kids. I know when I want my kids to act a better way, I praise that activity that I want them to do. So it looks like this when my kids are little. I had 3 kids in 3 years, and they might be kind of like, they might actually even be almost fighting with each other. But instead, I would say, oh, so and so, you are such a good brother. You're taking such good care of your sister. Thank you so much for sharing with her. I just praise every little scrap of anything, because that would encourage them to actually share more. They would love that. They soak it up. They want your love. They want to do well for you. So praising that activity creates more willingness to do that activity that you want. It's the same with adults. We don't reach 18 and suddenly lose that part of our innate need. It is still there. So I'm not saying that you're making stuff up, but I am saying that you're looking for activities that you can praise and recognize so that it will breed more of that same activity. Pump them up. If the only time you are giving your employees recognition is when you're recognizing their failure, you are a manager, not a leader, and you need to fix it right away. No one wants to be in that environment. People will not rise to the occasion in that environment. They will do the bare minimum not to get in trouble, and that's it. But if you build a culture where people are truly recognized, truly feel valued, they will rise way above your expectations. So this is the phase where you're learning to do that. You are starting that culture within your company of being able to do that with your people. So your confidence is up, but you need to stay humble. You don't want to get in the point either of being arrogant in this phase of like, I know everything, my business is successful, and start to forget the things that got you to this success, okay? You need to be giving of yourself, and you need to work with those people that you see that are rising up. Pour into that, bring it out even more, raise your leaders in this time of your business. Your job is to motivate the team. Your job is to set goals, help them get there. And you need to stay focused and aligned with the vision that you set forth. If you're in a business like mine, you want to make sure that you're aligned with other leaders in your business so you guys are on the same page. You can synergize and you can grow so much bigger that way. So this stage, again, is the stage 2, which is mastering and building phase. You have gone past the building blocks, and now you're implementing ways to systematize your business. This is where you're building the time freedom that you envisioned when you started your business. If you miss this step, you will never get to that. This part is incredibly key, and it's where I see most business owners fail. They do not put the system in place. They do not self-evaluate. They don't do the personal development growth that they need to do, and they turn into a manager, and then they just really have a sucky time. They have no time freedom. Even if they're making tons of money, they had no time to spend it. So that is not what you wanted to do when you started your business. I am sure of it. So make sure you really work on phase 2, the mastering and building phase. Now, phase 3, this is the orchestration phase. This is where your systems, your people, they're going to do a great job with or without you because you've built that culture, you've built that system. Now, this is the time where you've got to orchestrate a leap forward. This is where Apple becomes Apple. This is where Amazon becomes Amazon. This is where your business becomes something that is almost too big to fail. It just is a humming machine, and the momentum of it continues it to grow, right? You ever try and stop a train that's going full force? It's really hard. At the beginning of that train, it's hard as heck to get it going. But once you get that force of that train moving for you, it is hard to stop it. So this is where you need to be a vision stretcher. Set those audacious goals. Talk about those audacious goals. This is the place where you want to build more leaders, build more outlets. You're doing expansion, whatever that is in your business. This is the place where you're lifting others to the spotlight. Your job mostly becomes someone that comes in, helps them stretch their vision, helps develop mentoring relationships on a bigger level. This is where giants in your business emerge in the way of huge leaders, CEOs, other roles in your business become just tenfold. This is where you're running maybe major events, major contests in your company. This is where you're projecting to leaders where you see them going. And by nature of that, that helps your overall corporation grow to where you see it going. This is a place where you just really become an ambassador for your company. You don't have to be in the day-to-day because you've done phase 2 really well. And this is where you get to turn into a conglomerate of sorts. This is where you get to reap the rewards of all your hard work in stage 1 and 2. So you're kind of like just checking on everything, making sure the plates are spinning and propelling people to the next level of vision and being the person that champions big ideas. And this is a really cool place to be. This is where, again, companies like Amazon and Apple and Microsoft just did amazing things. They could have just stayed a great company and just kind of stayed on a medium stage, but instead they went on to change the world. And that's what you can do. If you do stage 1 and 2 really well, you will get to stage number 3. And that is going to be such an amazing thing for you. I would love you to comment if this video was helpful for you. I would love to hear what your business is. I'd love to hear what stage you're in, but no matter what stage you're in, just know that the next stage is waiting there for you. Know that you can do it if you follow the steps. Know that it's going to be worth it. Know that you have everything inside of you just waiting to be born out into this company, to build this new life that you have for yourself, to help other people, to be able to, within your organization, fulfill their hopes and dreams for their life. It's an amazing thing to do for people, and I am so excited for you. So comment if this video was helpful. I would love to hear what stage you're in. I'd love to hear feedback, and I wish you the very best.